Nothing too exciting today. Just going to do an oil change on the Ford 1920. The oil actually looks pretty clean, but because I don't know when they did the oil change last, just to be on the safe side, I'm going to change the oil out, and that's that. So first step is should make sure the tractor's warm. I just got done driving it around, so it's warmed up. That'll aid in draining the oil. The oil will be more viscous and be able to you'll be able to get more of the old oil out. And then the other thing you want to keep in mind is you should make sure it's on level ground, set your parking brake for safety's sake, shock the wheels if you feel that it's necessary, and don't let anybody on or around the tractor while you're working on it. Alright, that's my little safety speech for today. So, first step is the oil drain plug. Can't be more easy to get to. It's right here. And then there's a second one on the other side because there's actually a hump in this oil pan. So in order to properly drain the oil, you have to make sure you drain from both locations. So I don't know if you saw that, but I'll give you another look. See if you can see it here. There's one here and there's one there. Alright. I don't know why I was thinking this oil was really clean. Anyways, there it is. Black gold. Plenty of dirty oil. So I guess maybe we were overdue. Although with diesels, it doesn't take long for the oil to turn black anyways. They just, combustion process of a diesel engine is so dirty that it doesn't take long for it to blacken up that oil. Not only that, but also you get the oil cooler, residual oil in there that never really gets changed out. It just ends up mixing with the new oil. So, alright. So it looks like we're slowing down. And of course you don nitrile gloves when you're working, because when you're taking the plug out, it's not unusual for you to get some of this black oil on you, and that's never good to get it on your skin. And then have a suitable container to drain it in. I like using these over. We get this new cat litter that comes in these tidy cat things, and we rinse them out, save those containers. They're good for draining off all kinds of things. And then the waste oil, once I get enough of it together, I bring it to a friend of mine who's got a garage, and he's got a waste oil burner that he uses. While I'm waiting for that to finish dripping, I'm going to remove the oil filter, which is located right here. It's horizontally mounted on the side of the engine, and it's just enough clearance in there for it to fit. And I'm going to use a strap wrench, this style strap wrench, to get that off. Alright, and then of course, I neglected to mention, but you do want to have a pan underneath when you're unscrewing the filter, because you are going to get some more oil that's going to come out. And when you think you've got the pan position exactly where you want it, push it over a little further, because the oil wants to run down the side of the block and drip off over that way more and make a big mess. Alright, let's take a second to talk about oil filters. What was on here was this LF655 filter, fleet guard number. If you cross this to a Wix or a Napa number and you look up the specs, you come up with it crosses to a Napa number, which according to the Napa cross reference doesn't fit this tractor. So I ended up looking around and figuring out that I came up with anywhere like 4 to 6 different filter numbers for this tractor. Then I went on some forums and checked what guys were using for this tractor, and what I ended up finding out was most of the filters were identical as far as the filter media type that they use and the micron rating. One of the filters, I think it may have been this one, actually had no bypass valve, internal bypass valve. That is something you definitely don't want, because what a bypass valve does for you is if your filter becomes clogged, the bypass valve will open. The oil pressure in the engine will force the valve to open to allow oil to continue to circulate through your system with a clogged filter. So if you don't have a bypass valve, what can happen is when the filter gets clogged, you can actually start to starve parts of your motor from oil. At least that's what I was led to understand as how it worked. So all of the other filter numbers that I considered for this tractor were of the bypass type persuasion. And then I ended up finding out that the other thing that they did different on some of them was basically just the physical size. So some of them, this is what I ended up picking up, which I can use if it fits. This is a Napa 1515. This is the gold series. I like to use the gold. They actually also have a platinum now, which is even superior to this in construction, but this is good enough for my purposes. So the interesting thing is, well, this filter looks too big. So your first thought would be, oh, that's the wrong filter. But the actual dimensions of that gasket and the thread is all identical to this. So if you have sufficient room for the extra diameter, there's no reason why you can't use this filter. Then the second difference is the length. If you look at the length, it's just slightly longer. But I noticed that I could fit my fingers between this side piece right here and the end of the other filter, so I felt that this would fit. So now the million-dollar question is, can I fit this filter in there? And of course, before I put the filter in, you rub a little bit of clean engine oil on this gasket. That aids with seating the filter. Does it fit? Yes, it does. But to get it in, because the nipple sticks out from the engine, you need that little extra clearance. So what's nice about on this Ford 1920 is you've just got a simple wing nut screw, thumb screw, you remove from here. This allows this cover to fly free. You could actually take this bolt out and remove the cover altogether, but I just needed it out this far, so then I could get this screwed in there. It just clears the fuel filter bowl and housing, and the only other issue was I had to just move this breather tube over a little bit, but that was no big deal. So now I can tighten this filter up, and you can see that when I push this over, that there is still clearance. I don't know if you can see it from here, but there actually is still clearance between the inside of the cover and the filter. So this big honkin' filter fits just fine. Okay, filter's installed, finger tight first, and then about a half turn with the wrench. Well, a couple of things I want to mention at this point. Consulted the service manual, or tried to get a little more information about some oil change specs, and there's nothing in the service manual about changing the oil. There's enough stuff in there to tell you how to tear the whole engine apart, though. So in the operator's manual, it talks about oil changes, talks about when to do them. It actually recommends you change the oil every 100 hours, and then you change the filter every 200 hours. And then it also recommends that you reduce that duration. In other words, change the oil more often if you're using high sulfur content fuels. So, which I think is 0.5 parts per million, maybe, is it? I don't know. Anyways, that being said, I was wondering about these drain plugs. They don't seem to have crush washers on them. They just seem to have almost like a little rubber gasket there. There's nothing in the operator's manual that instructions that tell you to get a new one of those, and there's no crush washer, and there's also no torque specification to tell you how tight to torque these. So I'm going to put these in and snug them up, and if they leak, I'll have to deal with it later. Also, on the engine oil filter, it actually recommends that you hand tighten it 3/4 of a turn, and do not over tighten. So I actually tightened it even more than that, because I used the strap wrench and tightened it about half a turn after hand tightening it. So anyways, just wanted to mention that. Alright, so now I'm going to reinstall my drain plugs and put in some oil. Now, as far as what you're going to use for engine oil, they recommend you use Ford Super Premium engine oil, which of course if I go to my New Holland dealer I could probably buy that. But what I've decided I'm going to use is the Shell Rotella T5 synthetic blend. So it's a upgrade from regular engine oil, but not quite as good as full synthetic. And this meets the API service CJ4, CI4 Plus, CI4, CH4, CG-4, and SM, which I looked up the Ford oil and saw what the specifications are, and this oil meets or exceeds that spec. So that's why I know this is a safe oil. I actually forgot I did buy full synthetic for this tractor. This is the Rotella full synthetic, as opposed to the T5, which is the synthetic blend. And it takes more than 4 quarts to fill this crankcase, so I didn't want to spend the money on 2 gallons of that stuff. So basically the plan is put the full gallon of that in and then top it off with that. Although I meant to do it in the other order. I meant to put the full gallon of that in and top it off with that. Anyways, obviously it goes without saying they're compatible oils. Alright, so I added engine oil until it was in the high side of the safe area on the dipstick. Then started the engine and ran it for a few minutes. That gets the oil through the filter and through all the passages, and then shut it off, recheck the oil level. Of course it had dropped because it filled up all those voids, and then I added oil to the safe level, ran it again, double checked it, checked for leaks, and you're done.